ISIS issuing yet another threat on the U.S., this time calling on followers to take advantage of our gun laws and arm themselves for attacks. So how do we protect against these types of threats?
Here now to weigh in is a veteran of the Israeli Special Forces and a counterterrorism expert, Aaron Cohen. Aaron, good to see you here. And I got to ask, as an expert, how do you interpret these latest moves by ISIS and their sympathizers?
Well, I think that the latest move by ISIS that we're seeing right now is more of what ISIS has been really strong at, which is, having a look at what the systems are here in the United States, taking that, propagating it, shooting it through the internet as a pipeline or for the purposes of a training manual. The fact is that you've got how many millions of citizens here in this country, how many hundreds of thousands of them could potentially be ISIS sympathizers who are legally living here in the States. And if they're legally living here in the States, they can legally purchase firearms as long as they're not felons, and that creates a very intrinsic loophole that can be exploited by ISIS. And there's nothing you can do on the immigration side. There's nothing you can do on the deportation side. These are actual citizens. So it's really important for the gun shop owners and for DOJ and for the military, while these background checks are being conducted, that there's other indicators that we start to look for as well that's congruent for terrorism.
And that's the really frightening part, is that they are here, because if you look at the fact that ISIS has lost 98% of the territory it once held, overseas. We are defeating ISIS overseas, but the threatening part and the scary part, in my opinion anyway, is that it's right here at home.
That's right. President Trump went on the offensive. Friends of mine in Israel, cross-trains with the Americans quite regularly. The Marines come to Israel and train at our counterterror warfare school. Green Beret friends, SEALs of mine, have told me that with Donald Trump as the president, the mandate for counter-ISIS operations has been really clear for the first time in 8 years. So they're absolutely bringing and smashing ISIS in the Levant, in Syria, in Iraq. And so operations have been effective. And what's that doing? Just like you said, putting us on the defense here. It means our defensive measures need to be bolstered. We got New Year's coming up. We've got soft targets that are as soft as ever, soft as toothpaste, wide open here in this country. And so that's going to be the next shift of where we're going to have to start focusing our security efforts.
Aaron, let's talk about New Year's Eve quickly. What do Americans need to do to stay safe on New Year's Eve, not just 100 feet away from us or a few hundred feet away from us in Times Square, but throughout the country?
Well, Americans need to become what I call force multipliers. And what I mean by that is every pair of eyes is two more eyes they're looking. And what we need to be looking for in Times Square, at your mall, at the concert venue, at the stadium, at the club, at the special event, wherever you're going to be where there's a soft target, where there's crowds of people, you want to be looking for males between the ages of 20 and 40. And I don't mean we're looking for Muslims. I don't mean we're looking for Middle Easterns. We're looking for behavior. That's the secret sauce to the Israeli profiling. We're profiling behavior. White knuckling of the back. Tunnel vision, somebody moving towards a direction, fixated. Another thing you want to look for is somebody trying to avoid the checkpoint, staying away from security. Somebody whose bag doesn't match the clothing, and I mean extremely doesn't match the clothing. Wires that may be protruding. It sounds obvious, but it's very real. Wires that may be protruding from the bag. The smell of gasoline. You want to look for oil stains. These are all terror indicators. One of these doesn't mean he's a terrorist or she's a terrorist. You want a cluster. This is the El Al system. 2, 3, or 4 of these means you can then move them into immediate threat category, alert law enforcement immediately. Don't worry about the backlash of the don't tell. Tell law enforcement immediately so they can pull that guy aside, check his bag, check him for weapons. Everybody's responsibility out there is to be intelligence, act as force multipliers.
Absolutely. Aaron Cohen, great advice. Thank you so much for joining us, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you so much. Happy New Year's, guys.
Thanks, Aaron.